you thinking about?
Hi, Becky.
Which street?
Hi, old boy. Hi, old boy.
This is a new program.
You know, they told
no.
us when he was
Have you ever seen
that?
I haven't.
Now he won't
She's
never
got
let
one.
us.
She dresses really well.
Yeah, she's.
All righty,
She
everybody.
has quite the fashion sense.
Good evening. I need to organize you. It's been a slightly hectic day, as you can imagine. Okay. In fact, I was getting ready to lay down and take a nap a little while ago. I thought, okay, I'm caught up. And I looked up and it's 5 o'clock. So I guess I'm not going to lay down and take a nap. I don't take naps anymore. Okay. Diane and Steve were just telling me, as you heard on the announcements, Linda died this morning very early. So arrangements as we see them on the obituary is service 2 o'clock Sunday at Schwartz's Park Avenue Chapel. I just did one there 2 weeks ago for somebody else. No meal, no graveside. So we should not interfere with the girls having their class. Those of us that can go, and I encourage everyone to come, 2 o'clock to the funeral, then 4 o'clock we'll be free by then to go to the Bowlan's.
You said Schwartz's?
Schwartz is on
The one
Park,
Park.
on Park Avenue,
Yeah, gotcha.
Boulevard, whatever it is. So, but we need to support the family in this. I was telling Judy just the other night when we were there, you know, Linda, for those who maybe didn't know as well as others, when she was coming, Linda is the most kind, thoughtful person you'd ever meet.
She is.
It was incredible. I mean, she has gone through cancer treatments for years, blindness, pretty much homebound. What else?
With a smile.
But it didn't get her down.
No,
Yeah.
always with a smile. She's just, you know, this is off topic, I guess. Well, maybe it's not because we're talking about Esther, but she epitomized what a godly woman would be. And it was amazing because, so even like the other night, I went, about 4 days ago, we went in there and she immediately, the first thing she said was, "Oh, I heard you've not been feeling good." And I went, "And you're laying here dying." You know, that's just the kind of attitude she had. So, in respect with that, since all y'all knew her so long and so well, anyone that has a story, I mean, y'all know how I do funerals. I like to do personal as much as possible. So if you have any stories, any reminiscence, any funnies, any poignants, please write them down and get them to me this week. You know, before Saturday. I mean, I can always work one in on Sunday morning if I get it in, but sooner the better for my planning purposes. But anyway, in fact, the one I did a week ago, 2 weeks ago at Park was for Elaine Cross's daughter-in-law. And the family, that's another, we talked about this Sunday night, that's how we can make impacts with people, is, you know, none of the Crosses have come to church since Elaine died 10 years ago, probably. Yet they immediately called the church to ask if we could help with that funeral. So, whether it ever does anything or not, it's not our job. But the opportunity to touch people is our job. And so we do the best we can. All right, we're going to talk about relying on God's protection. And this will be our last lesson in this series. If you had... Oh, that's great this evening. Anyway, I'm like, who is stopping? Anyway, it's hard to keep my mind focused now. Queen Esther. This will be our last lesson. If you have something you'd like a topic for us to go to, I was going to do, JC's written a series of lessons. We're going to do that on a Sunday night series because Allison wants to be in here, JC. And she can't be here on Wednesdays. She's in class. So anyway, but if you have a book of the Bible, I want to keep with book studies, let me know. Anyway, so Queen Esther answers the king and says, "If I have found favor in your sight, O king, and if it pleases thee, let my life be given thee at my petition, and my people at my request." Your perspective on life changes when you rely on others for protection. Whether you're relying on a doctor, a police officer, a family member, military, one of your brothers in the military. When you do that, when you have to rely on them for your protection, your thankfulness, your level of thankfulness, that all that shifts and your perspective shifts. In the military, we always talk about the brotherhood, and because you rely on them. And it doesn't even have to be, you never had to fight shoulder to shoulder with them to still know that you could count on them. In fact, if you saw the news in Chicago, they were forbidding the Chicago police from assisting ICE when ICE was trapped. Recently, they were barricaded in and crowd was fighting. Well, I'm sure those line officers were not happy with that, because you have to know that every other agency is going to support you if something happens. And so now all of a sudden you're not getting the support. And so Esther is saying, is relying on the king's generosity to protect her, to save her life at this moment. So what are some ways that you may have witnessed God's protection in the past? That's the thing to think about. That, God has been there, or maybe that God sent somebody there. Allison broke down with a couple of our foster kids in Georgia summer heat. It's miserable. And the person that drove by was a sheriff, saw her pulled over, and was a member of the church. And in that heat, bulletproof vest and all, he's sitting there changing her tire for her. And that's a case where God put somebody that would help her in the right place, because I wasn't in town. I was never in town. I worked away all the time then. Anybody have one where you know that God intervened? Yes, Elizabeth?
Well,
And don't say bocce ball.
when I was taking my first thing for my cancer,
Mm-hmm.
I was just sitting there. I was lonely and scared. And these people brought over this dog, this thin poodle.
Mm-hmm.
And the poodle just put her head on my lap and was looking at me like, "Oh, I know." I think God was there and saying, "It's all right, my child."
Well, now we talk about that, so let's look back at the chain, because we don't always see a chain. But 18 years ago, I started the therapy dog program for the hospital here. I have trained and certified every therapy dog. So I trained and certified, and I know the poodle you're talking about, the standard poodle, the lady it belongs to, because I just certified her newer dog, because that one died a year ago, and she's been training a puppy. And so you see a full circle of God, and I did that with the dogs because it brought comfort to so many people at like the cancer center and hospital rooms, and we certified several hundred dogs in the last 18 years, and they visited thousands of hospital rooms and cancer patients. So let's look at chapter 7, verses 1 through 10 in the book of Esther. So the king and Haman came to the banquet with Esther the queen. Now you remember from last week, how was Haman planning to come? Okay, what did he do the night before the banquet, the first banquet? Huh? We're not talking about that one. We're talking about his attitude towards the banquet.
He thought he was getting a promotion.
Yes, he did. And he was so excited because just he and the king were the only two people invited. So now the first one came and went, and the second one, but you're right, Tammy, but so the second one comes, and does anybody remember what it looked like him going to the second one? He had an entire royal procession, basically. He is making such a big deal of this. Little does he know what the king now knows. Anyway, so the king said again unto Esther on the second day at the banquet of wine, what is thy petition, Queen Esther? And it will be granted to you. And what is your request? Even to half of my kingdom it shall be performed. So Esther the queen answered and said, If I have found favor in thy sight, O king, and if it pleases the king, let my life be given me at my petition, and my people at my request. For we have been sold, and I and my people to be destroyed. But if we had been sold for bondmen and bondswomen, I would have held my peace, although the adversary could not have compensated for the king's damage. Then spake the king Ahasuerus, or Xerxes, and said unto Esther the queen, Who is he, and where is he that he has presumed in his heart to do such a thing? And Esther said, An adversary and an enemy, even this wicked Haman. Then Haman was afraid before the king and the queen. Now, what had the night before this banquet, what had transpired that made the king much more interested in helping Esther? Anybody remember? He couldn't sleep, so what did he do? He told one of his historians to come and bring him the book of history, either that or read to him. But anyway, in his reading through his personal biography, he discovers that many years before, who had saved his life? Mordecai. Mordecai stopped an assassination plot. The Bible didn't go into how he did or whatever, but he stops an assassination attempt, and the king went, I remember Mordecai. And so that's on his mind. Now, he does not know that Esther's asking for Mordecai at this point yet. Remember, he had not named names. He just said, let's kill those people that are not obedient to you, O king, and we should kill them all. And the king said, okay. You know, they're slaves, basically, in my kingdom. It's fine. And the king arose in his anger from the banquet of wine, and he went into the palace garden. So, what's the mindset here? You can see him do what? He stomps out of this because he's so angry to get away. Don't a lot of us do that? We walk away from the situation rather than explode. Is this time to think? Or maybe it's just me. And he went into the garden. Haman stood up to make a request for his life to the queen, for he saw that there was evil determined against him by the king. So the king returned out of the palace garden into the place of the banquet of wine, and Haman had fallen upon the couch whereon Esther was. Then the king said, Will he even force the queen before me in her house? So, what does the king see, or what does he think Haman's about to do to his wife?
Mine says assault her.
As I see it, he's either going to assault her or rape her to get her in control. Either way, now it looks even worse for him, because he's taking advantage of the queen.
Not a smart move.
Oh, he's not a smart man. He's just an arrogant. So does anybody else, when you're reading these, picture the person? In everything I read, I picture, and then the movies are disappointing because they're never the same. So I envision Haman as a short little guy, and he's got this little man complex, and he's bigger than me, and he's just waddling around, and he's so proud that he's been chosen for all these great things. Not working out so great.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not to dwell on it too much, but I think of some of our modern day politics, now things may be coming to fruition. And I look at this story and I'm thinking, times have changed, but people haven't.
Oh, people have changed. Since the Garden of Eden, since the days of Noah. Noah is proclaiming to everyone, you're about to die for your sins. You've got time to repent. And what do? They mock him. Throwing sticks, laughing at him, whatever. So it says, anyway, you're going to force the queen before me in the house? As that word went out of the king's mouth, they covered Haman's face. What do you see that they're doing here? They're putting the Haman's cap over him, basically. Then said Harbonah, one of the chamberlains that went before the king, Behold also the gallows 50 cubits high. How much is 50 cubits? 50 times 18 inches? 75 feet. The gallows 75 feet high, which Haman had made for Mordecai, who spake good for the king, standeth in the house of Haman. And the king said, Hang him thereon. So, they hanged Haman on the gallows that he had prepared for Mordecai. Then was the king's wrath pacified. So, where all, before we get into the question part of this, where all do you see God's hand in this? Think it through from the beginning. So think of maybe I got that as a question. Anyway, think of all the places from the selection of Esther on. How?
Well, even before that, because God gave Mordecai the chance to save the king even before all that took place.
So many years before God intercedes there, God chooses Esther, and now the Bible declares that she's basically an orphan. I don't think it said anything what happened to her parents or anything. If you look, countries like Haiti, they will take people in as orphans, and they're not really orphans. That doesn't mean they have no parents. It just means they're destitute, and they'll take them in. So whatever the case, God intercedes so that Esther winds up with Mordecai, who raises her to be a godly, God-fearing woman. What's next? He guides the selection of her by the eunuchs. He guides the selection of her by the king to be his primary wife, primary queen of all the harem.
And her beauty was stunning, apparently, for the
God gives her a stunning beauty. Yeah, don't you wish we had pictures back then? I mean, I want to see Sarah. You know, that she was stunning at 100 years old, still.
Well, even though she is stunning in all this, Mordecai raises her in a way that means she's faithful to God. She's not counting on her beauty to get there.
Right. So then he intercedes with the king, remembering Mordecai. He intercedes with the king, allowing Esther to approach him. He intercedes with the success of the banquet. He intercedes with Haman's. I think he even intercedes in Haman's behavior. Now, it's kind of like, remember it says that God hardened Pharaoh's heart? Did God cause Pharaoh to sin? That's not possible. God will not force us to sin. God will put opportunity, challenges in front of us, tests in front of us. But God's not going to force us to sin. So when it says he hardened Pharaoh's heart, what does that mean?
He allowed it to happen.
He used what Pharaoh already had, which was a hard heart. And so God may have increased the hardness, but he didn't cause him to sin. Pharaoh was going to sin. Ben?
Also, just the faith that Mordecai had, if I was in his position, I think I would have just been happy that, okay, Esther's safe. I'm not going to jeopardize that, but he knew that God was going to take care of him and the rest of the people. That he could tell her, just go talk to him, do these things, instead of, well, at least she's safe and I'm going to die now.
That's true. And she really didn't know what was going on outside the walls, because she had to be told that Mordecai was sitting out there in sackcloth and ashes and rent clothing. Remember, she didn't know, so she says, "Wait, what is he doing? Sitting outside the palace gates like that?" Yeah. So, they've got all these. God has intervened in so many ways in that. And here's the thing, we're Monday morning quarterbacks. We can see this 4,000 years later, whatever it is. But the reality is, we can't usually see all the ways God intervenes in our life. Again, that's why I always beg you, do a prayer journal sometimes. I've used it over the years, and it brings so many things to your memory that, oh man, God had to have a hand in that. How did that happen?
Prayer is very important, but it needs to follow with action.
Yes.
You can sit there like a monk and pray and pray and pray, but I think in John 11, Jesus asked the people to roll the stone away for Lazarus. Could have Jesus rolled that stone away? Certainly. But he expected the people to do something they could do.
I can't guarantee this. I'm not a scholar in that area, but it is my understanding that the Greek there was not just rolled it to the side, was basically that the stone was thrown away.
At Jesus' resurrection.
At Jesus' resurrection, yes. That the stone was not, didn't blast it, it didn't blow it up, but you know, it's like it had been thrown out of the way. At least that's what I'd heard in class in college, but that's a long time ago. So anyway, Haman has the gallows built for Mordecai, 75 feet high, and now the story shifts back to King Xerxes, or Ahasuerus, and he's unable to sleep one night, so he has the court records of his reign read to him. He learns Mordecai foiled this assassination attempt, Esther 2, 19 through 23, and he determines to reward Mordecai. So he's made this decision, and he's going to give Mordecai an award for this. And again, Haman is coming thinking this award ceremony is for him. He's so proud of himself. And so he suggests a lavish processional, complete with royal robes, on a horse, ridden by the king, and mortified to learn that the recipient, mortified that it's Mordecai. It almost rhymes. While Haman's discussing his twists of fate with his wife Zeresh, he's summoned to the banquet with the queen Esther has prepared. So he knows Mordecai's going to get an award. He's probably thinking, you know, okay, let's just let this one lie. Maybe I'll kill all the other Jews and let Mordecai, I don't know what's on his mind. But he knows that the king remembers Mordecai and is going to give him an award. What he doesn't know is Esther's going to say, he's the rat thing wanting to kill Mordecai, which turns everything around. So, what is her request to the king? And what is her bargain with the king? Because she makes a kind of a bargaining thing with the king as well. The first thing is, at my request, do what? Let my life... Ooh, y'all are slowing up take tonight. Let my life be given to me, and all of my people at my request. Now, the bargaining chip was, if we were being sold into slavery, we would accept that. Right? So that's almost, if you want to enslave my people, you go ahead. They're already captive, but give us our lives. So if we're to be sold, if we are sold, and my people to be destroyed, so be it. But he says, can't remember. For we are sold, I and my people, to be destroyed. Okay, so he has given us over to be killed now. But if we'd been sold for bondsmen and women, I wouldn't have said anything. You know, if you were going to make us slaves again. So how does the king? What is the king's reaction to this news?
Wasn't happy.
Wasn't happy.
No.
Who
Got
would do
mad
such a
at it.
thing?
In fact, he gets mad after he stomps off, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Because he doesn't want to ruin this little meal that she's got.
He wants to know who did this.
Yeah,
The king does.
he does. So he stomps out. The Bible mentions several times a banquet of wine. And I'm not sure totally, but I have an assumption she's softening him up a little bit. Again, the wine of that day was not as potent as the wines of today. However, he would have still gotten a little relaxed on it. So maybe, I don't know. That's why I just wonder. You see other places where it just mentions banquet, but it doesn't call it a banquet of wine. In the Hebrew, it's specifically, I did look this up. The Hebrew specifically says a banquet with wine. Anyway. So, you know, Haman stands up to beg the queen to let him live. What's he thinking? At this point, you're going to kill my uncle, and you're asking me to save your life. Wouldn't that kind of been like, you know, why did Hitler commit suicide? He knew he was going to be hung if we got hold of him. Our troops did World War II. So he killed himself. Because what happened to Gogol and some of them? They were all hung by the Nuremberg trials, the ones that survived the war. So here, Haman's like, he should just run ahead and take him a killing field or something. Because he doesn't stand a chance here. He's going to kill a whole nation of people. Do you have something, JC?
Haman wanted all the Jews killed.
Yes, all over their kingdom.
And he was of the genealogy of Agag. Back in 1 Samuel, when Saul was told to kill all the people, Agag was the only one spared. So his hatred for the Jews may have been because of that history, that the Jewish people, Saul's killed everybody but Agag.
How far down the line is he? I've forgotten that. I mean, I'm glad you reminded us of that. Do you remember how many generations had passed before Haman's born?
I don't remember.
That'd be interesting. Look that up, somebody. Not you have to tonight, but that would be interesting because if it's, I know that my great-great-great-grandmother was taken by the Creek Indians, or the, but I don't have any ill will towards the Creek Indians, now. So you got to wonder how many generations. That'd be interesting. Anyway, so the king comes back in. How did Haman go to his award that the king's planned for him? Man, y'all are not. He's hung on his own gallows. That's his award. Greg, do you remember how long this room is? It's like
Our
35 or 40 feet,
our biggest silo was 70.
the concrete one.
Yep.
All right, so you've all been out there. I have climbed that thing. Ben's climbed that thing, but it's a long way up into Ben. You think about, Bruce would make us climb and he'd stand below and tell us what to do. I don't know if that has any
He
relevance.
didn't want to do it.
No, he didn't. He wouldn't. I'll tell you, meanie on Bruce, he has me and Ben climb the silo carrying up this huge piece of equipment. So the way we're doing it, we got ropes on it, and I go up a little way and hand it up to Ben, Ben would hang on to it, and then I'd come up, catch up with him, and I'd hold on to it, and Ben would go on up, or vice versa, I don't remember who was on top, but all the way up. And when we got up there, we're dying. And I said, Bruce, tell me you measured all this before we carried this up here. No, it fit.
It didn't fit.
Anybody guess what happened?
Didn't fit.
It didn't fit. And Bruce said, well, y'all just need to carry it back down. I said, I'm going to throw it out the hole. I'm going to carry that thing. No, I don't think we lowered it down for him, Ben, did we? I think we left it for him to do.
I don't remember.
I wasn't happy. I wasn't mad at him, but I wasn't happy about the whole thing. Anyway, so that's 70 foot tall, add 5 more, probably to the peak of it or more. That's how high they were planning to hang Mordecai. That's a lot of arrogance on Haman's part. And it's kind of good that he got hung there himself, I guess.
Well, maybe it was so that many people could see what was going on.
Oh, I'm sure it was. But remember, where did he build the gallows? It says.
In his backyard.
In his own backyard, in his own courtyard. Haman's courtyard, not the king's, Haman's. Yes, definitely. So what is he trying to prove by doing this if he had done it? You're right, he wanted everybody to see, but what is the point of everyone seeing? Is it to learn respect for the king? Or was it to learn respect for Haman?
Amen.
It's all about Haman.
Yeah, it's to learn fear of Haman.
None of this, if it had been about the king, he'd have told him about Mordecai. But he hasn't mentioned this. He just said these people are doing this.
Well, even before, we already mentioned already, Haman was there on the couch with the queen, which didn't set well either.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not a way to win friends.
Not the king.
And the king obviously saw something in the body language that said he's trying to, what was the wording of it? Put upon her?
I think it said assault.
Assault her in your translation? Yeah. All right, so again, we already talked about this, all the things he did. He puts Esther in Mordecai's home. He puts a reason for Esther to be queen. He makes Esther favored above the other concubines, whatever. Yeah.
Mine says falling on the couch with Esther.
Yeah.
So, similar.
That's what mine said.
Whatever, is totally inappropriate, right? For the circumstance.
If he touched her, that would have been,
Oh,
if he
yeah.
grabbed her by the shoulders and
Even
threw her
today,
down.
you don't touch Middle Eastern women. You just don't. In fact, and I still do it, and it's not to be mean, I speak to most everybody I pass. I never speak to women in a burqa because it is just considered extremely rude to do that. And they never speak, they never. Now, there's Muslim women are not in a burqa, yeah, they're not following the rules, and that's okay, but. Anyway, makes the king willing to hear her plea, makes the king's heart harden against the enemy, and makes Haman's pride a lesson for everyone else in the kingdom. So what does this say about God's protection for his people? JC?
We may not see how it's going to happen, but God's presence is around us, protect us.
How many years before you were born, JC, did God plan for Jesus to come? 8,000, give or take? Consider we think it's a 10,000-year-old world. Ben, did you have something?
I was gonna pretty much say what you said. He's not waiting until we're in a bad situation and then trying to figure something out. He knows what we're gonna need, and he's already working on it way before there's even the hint of a problem.
And that should help us when we find ourselves in trouble, realizing that God already knew it was coming. He wants you to ask still. God always wants us to ask. Fiona, the other week, I said I was going to go to a tournament, and she goes, "You don't have to come." I said, "I want to come." "No, really, Dad, you don't need to come." "I want to come." And then, that day, she's asking, "Are you coming?" "Yeah." "How long are you going to stay?" "I'm going to stay for all 15 matches." You don't have to do that. But yes, she kept looking to see if I was there all day long. Every time we go to a new gym, she'd look to see where I was sitting. And, that makes me feel good. Why? It's her demonstrating she loves, and she wants us to support her. She wants us to be part of it. God wants you to say, "I know you're supporting us." What are you getting tickled about? Go ahead.
Well, I'm just thinking, our granddaughter's the same way. Now, don't be yelling out my name or anything when they're playing volleyball.
Yeah. Yeah, don't act like I know you, but yeah. So, doesn't go with this, but Patty's daughter sent us a video a while back. Patty's granddaughter is a big-time softball player, traveling team, school, all that. She's good. But she was sitting in her basement, hitting the ball. And it was, I guess, a practice ball, so it didn't go that far. But she's in the basement of the garage, hitting it into a net, and it came back and hit her hard. And of course, we're all so sympathetic, we're dying laughing over it. Anyway, sorry. So he puts, in the moment, God's there for you. He puts somebody in the right place or at the right time to help. Now, if you don't ask him for help, can that person walk on by? Sure they can. Because if you don't care enough to ask, God might not help you in that circumstance. He may let you tough it out. Or he may have planned 1,000 years ago to have that person in place at that time. I'm not saying we're all that important. God's planned something for us for 100 years. But he did. He planned Jesus for you all those years ago. And so putting someone there to change your tire is not that big a stretch. Or putting someone that needs you in that position. Ben helped that family Sunday, and other officers might not have been willing or known how to help them in the moment. There's always these situations, and we don't think much about them, but they come about because we are children of God, and He's not responding to your prayers in those situations where we help somebody. He's responding to their need and uses a Christian to be the example. I was telling them, I had not heard until they told me that I was doing the funeral Sunday. But guess what? I got up this morning and I wrote a funeral. Why? I want to be there for the family if they want the church involved, which I figured they would, but, you know, that's not arrogance, that's saying, I want to be prepared in case they ask. And because in case they ask for it to be on Friday or something, I need to be prepared for this. Anyway, in the days leading up to the war with Germany, the British government came up with a whole series of posters. The idea was to capture encouraging slogans on paper and distribute through the country. Capital letters in a distinctive typeface were used, and a simple two-color format was selected, red on white. The only graphic on them was the King George VI's crown, and the first poster came out and did not say what you think it said. It said, "Your courage, your cheerfulness, your resolution will bring us to victory." Kind of wordy. But they distributed thousands of them. So another one came out that was a little less wordy. It says, "Freedom is in peril, defend it with all your might." These two posters were all over the country, all over Britain. Railroad platforms, pubs, stores, restaurants, everywhere. But a third poster was created and it was never distributed. 2.5 million copies were printed, but nobody knew about it for 60 years. And now we all know about it, right? We've all heard this slogan, I think it's up there, right? Keep calm and carry on. And a bookstore owner in Northeast England found a box of old books with those posters inside it. Keep calm and carry on. So, it still had the crown, still the same typeface. It was being held in reserve, so he framed it. It became so popular that he started producing identical posters for people saying everything, keep calm, and lots of different things, you know. And he made coffee mugs, postcards, and posters, and he got really rich over somebody's idea that nobody saw during the war. We always think they saw it in the war because we hear it so much. You can't control the weather. You're not in charge of the economy. You can't undo a tsunami or move a tornado. But you can map out strategies. As Steve said earlier, you can pray and then get to work. So God is in the crisis. Remember, he told Elijah that. I'm not the storm, but I'm still here. You know, it's my storm. So ask him to give you an index card size plan, 2 or 3 steps that you can take. You know, write that down. I've been trying to impress this on one of our employees, I believe, but I've told him every Monday morning, actually Sunday afternoon, I write a list of what I want to do by day this week. And every single day I revise my list. It was a little bit of yellow, you know, notebook things. And I write it, and I rewrite it, and I rewrite it, because I'm getting forgetful. I didn't do that in the old days, now I do, because I'm forgetting things.
It gets worse.
Oh, I've got my alarms on my phone are set for everything I need to do for the next 2 weeks. Pick up Declan on this date, Ben's out of town, you know, stuff like that.
This is my motto. If it's not written down, it doesn't exist.
Exactly. So, you know, think about what you want God to do or what you want to do. Write it down and talk to God about it before, during, and after writing it. Okay, so we got a couple more minutes. So how did Esther keep calm and soldier on when it involved her trust? What did she do to keep her focused and calm?
He did a couple things. She fasted and prayed, and as well as the people around her. And then she also talked to Mordecai. And that's a big deal with us. We have people that we can talk to when we're anxious, and that does help.
What else? JC?
Mordecai told her that she wasn't just doing it to save her own life, she was doing it to save all of her people. And I think when you're doing it for other people, it's easier to do than just do something for yourself.
Yeah, if you back to the kind of thing we talk about, if a gunman was here and I was alone, I'd probably run, you know, or do something to not get shot. But if a gunman walks in and there's children here, I'm gonna do everything in my power to stop the gunman and save children, or little old ladies like Diane. But why did I have to pick on you? Right? But you're right. It's easier to help other people than it is to save ourselves. How?
She looked at the next step. She never got ahead of herself. She just did the next step. And when she did the king, she said, I'm just inviting you to the next thing. So it's just one step at a time.
She walked into the king all subservient, whereas Vashti said, I'm not going to do what you want. I'm the queen. I don't have to do that. She went in subservient. And she also said, I'm going to butter him up. I'm not going to do this in front of 1,000 courtiers or whatever's in the court. I'm going to do it. And that's not an unrealistic number considering how big his provinces were. I'm going to do this in private. So I'm going to do a dinner for you, king. Just you and Haman. How about that? And then the next night, man, that was so good. I'll give you anything you want. Then come back tomorrow. Let's do this again. This was nice. He comes back again. Now he says, I'll really give you up to half the kingdom. What do you want? Save my people. That's all I want. Okay. We will stop there. But again, if you have an idea, you better get into me by Sunday. As far as what kind of class we're going to do next. Well, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do a book of the Bible. Tell me which